We all know that Elle Wood's type of woman, a straight-up boss who doesn't stop for the world, but the world stops for her. We not only want to look up to these confident, intelligent, fear-tackling kinds of women, we want to become one ourselves.
And that's what we're trying to achieve at Insert Verb here, sharing our passions, opportunities, and experiences to give you the tools and motivation to become her, documenting the journey we're on to become the best versions of ourselves, the journey of becoming a strong and powerful woman.
Like, and not like people were sexualizing me, but they're
not
directly,
yeah.
but they
the
are
sport is-
the sport itself. The way like society puts such an emphasis on our bodies really was just a recipe for body dysmorphia.
Yeah, you don't say that.
No. People
F
suck.
off, dude. Anyway.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Insert Verb here.
Hello.
I am Haley,
I'm Jordan.
and we are the host of this podcast.
Of Insert Verb
Of
here.
Insert Verb here, of really just verb in general.
Yeah,
All
true.
of verb.
All of Verb. More things coming your way soon.
Mm-hmm. Exciting things. We are back to you today on a beautiful. Well, recording on Friday, but
It is a beautiful day.
It's
actually.
a very pretty day.
Oh man, the weather feels so nice. Also, sorry for the sounds in the background. My dog is growling, so if you hear it, that's what it is.
This morning, because I normally get up around 6:30 every single day, and Zane's on a work trip right now, and so he normally walks Fox in the morning, but I did it. I've been doing it since he's been gone, and I walked out this morning, and it was like cold.
Yeah.
Like it was 70 degrees, which I know for most people is like, oh yeah, that's not that cold.
But in Houston.
But in Texas,
Yeah.
that's like winter.
Yeah.
So it was cold and it wasn't humid.
Mm-mm.
It was a beautiful morning. I was like, I'm so glad I'm up this early because it was amazing.
Yeah.
We never get weather like this ever. So
No.
it's very nice weather. It's a beautiful day. And we're here for another episode of Insert Verb here.
And Miss Haley, what are we talking about today?
This week is an interesting episode. I guess you could call it our body positivity episode, but it really is more of a story on on my personal relationship with my body and also some hot takes that I realized when I was prepping for this video. I realized a lot of things about society that really sucks.
Yeah.
In the way that
Like
they
what?
define our body. We're gonna get into it later.
Don't rush it. Don't
Don't rush it.
It's got to bake.
It does. A lot of ways that society defines our body that's honestly really shit
Yeah.
and needs to change. And so we're gonna talk about all of that in this episode today. So I guess I should go ahead and start off with my disclaimer.
Okay.
I was like, gotta be safe here. So basically, what I'm going to talk about more later in the episode than at the beginning is not a representation on how I feel about everyone's bodies. It is like I wholeheartedly believe that everyone is beautiful no matter what size they are, like race, gender, like whatever you are beautiful no matter what is basically what I'm trying to say. And so the conversation we're about to have is just me sharing my experience with my own body, my health,
Any trigger warnings?
I mention disordered eating, but I do not go into any detail. And so if there is, we will make sure to have timestamps on the video to skip to if at any point we do talk about
Or
that.
the audio description.
Or the audio description too. But we shouldn't it should not be too deep. It's more going to be a mention than anything else. I truly do not want anything I'm saying to come off as offensive to anybody or fat phobic or anything like that, because that really isn't my intention at all. Like I said before, when I was prepping for the episode, I was kind of thinking of like how to go about this conversation, and I realized that as a society, we don't really have terms to describe people's bodies that don't have to deal with like size and weight. And so I was kind of thinking about that, like how to navigate that without saying those words, but we really don't have anything to talk about this kind of subject. And so A, that needs to change. And then B, I am going to be saying some of these words just for clarity's sake. And I spent a lot of time on this prepping. So to really try, like my wholehearted intention is not to offend anybody. Yeah, so for clarity's sake, I'm going to be using these words just so we don't get confused. But as a society, I think we need to change this. So in the future, when we have these conversations, we don't have to talk about it in this way. So I think that's very important for the future.
So what is your relationship or the background of your relationship with your body, and what kind of like what's your journey with that?
Yeah, so I guess my kind of relationship and my experience with my body started from a very young age. I was a cheerleader. I started doing that about the age of 6.
It's like the cheerleader stereotype, like with food and stuff. Is that kind of an accurate thing in that world?
Not really, honestly.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I also, when I was quite young when I did it, like it's very much, and it's not like high school cheerleading. It's competitive cheerleading, which is a completely different like ball game. So I never experienced that, but it's more that as I was thinking about it, I really realized how it really sexualizes children. I mean, from a young age, it's all about the tiny outfits, the traditional sexualized femininity in children, and then it's hidden behind this really intense competitive sport, you know? And so I feel like that really had a lot of effect on me, because that wasn't really something that was like, and not like people were sexualizing me, but they're
not directly.
Not directly,
yeah.
but
the sport itself.
The sport itself, it's really based around
That's interesting.
like obviously there's the stunts and the tumbling, which is all this like high impact, high intensity sport. But then you have like the dances and the little tiny skirts and outfits. Like I think a big part of like why like crop tops are one of my favorite shirts to wear now is from cheer, because I started wearing things like that by the time I was like 6 years old.
That's interesting. You know, I'm sure that does have a lot to do with it.
And then that's all I wore, like, because in practices we would wear, because you're not really allowed to wear shirts. You have to wear sports bras and shorts, because shirts can get, like, if you're doing a stunt, you can get wrapped up in there and things can go wrong. So, I mean, I was wearing sports bras and little tiny booty shorts by the time I was 6 years old. And so that's just the things I like to wear now still, you know, and that really stuck with me doing it for 10 years. Yeah, so I think that had a big part on it. And then also just like I was a flyer, which means that I was at the top of the stunts, which you are expected to be very small when you do that. And so from a young age, I was really, even though we were all kind of expected to be built like top athletes at 8 years old. Like I had a 6-pack by the time I was like 7 years old, because of cheer. But like you're still expected to be like small and lean, and so I think that on top of just the way that society puts an emphasis on our bodies from even from such a young age, that.
Michi, come here. Sorry, he got grumpy.
So I think that all of that on top of the way like society puts such an emphasis on our bodies from such a young age really was just a recipe for body dysmorphia and disordered eating. Like truly.
Fair. That's really fair.
So yeah, that's really the kind of the basis of that. And so I really truly struggled to love my body when I was younger. And even like it's really stuck to me to this day. And it has taught me a lot. Through feeling like that about my body for 16 years of my life, really like having not a great relationship with my body and being very overly hyper aware of it at all times from a young age. And so it's taught me a lot and has made me realize a lot of things about how society defines us by our size, and that honestly is just totally bullshit.
For men and women.
Yeah, for everyone.
There's a lot of stress on men to look a certain way as well.
Yeah.
And it's just not healthy. And it's, I think, in a way, society has kind of, if you have body dysmorphia, if you have any sort of specific relationship with food, no matter what it is, like, that's a women's thing.
Yeah.
So it's very rarely talked about with men, but they can definitely experience it. And they definitely do. In all shapes, just like women do, and everyone it's rarely talked about. Yeah, it's starting to become more talked about recently, but still, I don't think to the degree that it needs to be talked about. Not at all. So, in your experience, in your research, even, and just your day-to-day life, what have you found like society expects from you and your body and like your relationship, and what would you like to change? What society deems that its values are with that? Yeah. The first one that I was thinking through was your weight and your health are not mutually exclusive. Correct. There is no link between the two, and I cannot emphasize that enough, that it does not matter what you weigh, what size you are. Like someone with a societally ideal body can be just as healthy as someone who is plus size. Or as unhealthy. Exactly. I mean, I have an example, like, I mean, just because, like, looking at me, I'm like your average size person. But a couple years ago, I got super duper sick and like incredibly anemic where I almost had to be hospitalized for it. I mean, that's not exactly the same thing, but looking at me, you'd be like, oh, that's a healthy, athletic, active person. But in reality, I was like, having to get transfusions out the wazoo and all that stuff. So you just never know, and you shouldn't judge. And like my friend, one of my really close friends, sorry to interrupt you, she's very thin, but she eats so much, but she's just naturally thin. And there was one time that I went out to eat, and there was a waitress who was almost the same build as my friend, and the table next to me was like, well, she needs a burger. Like, you don't know.
No.
You don't know anything about her. Don't judge. Like, you have no right saying that, because if someone were to say that to my friend,
I mean,
and also even if even if that waitress did have like issues, a bad relationship with food,
that's gonna make it worse.
Yeah, you don't say that.
No. People suck.
F off, dude. Anyway, so you can never tell by what someone
and like
says.
I was gonna use like myself as an example. Like I'm an average, like typically average, and also, did you know that standard sizing for clothing has not even been around for 100 years?
Oh, really?
It was invented, I believe it was during World War II. Because of just like production and things like that.
Interesting.
It didn't exist before everyone got their clothes custom made and tailored. Even if, you were poor, you still had...
Well, you probably made your own clothes.
Yeah, you made your own clothes. And so, it wasn't until World War II, but I could be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure it's World War II, that standard clothing sizes were created. So they haven't even been around for 100 years.
That's so interesting.
And they've changed so much. Anywho, all that to say, I'm a typically average size woman everywhere. And like pretty much for the first 20 years of my life, I had a diet of exclusively pizza, spaghetti, Tex-Mex, and dessert. Exclusively. I don't think I ate a vegetable until I was 21.
Oh my God.
And so like that's just proof that I made when I was younger, like I said, I was a top athlete. I had a 6-pack when I was 6 years old, and I kept that until I was 16 and hit puberty and like actually had a woman's body and was no longer a child. And so it's like, if you looked at me, you would not have known. It looks like I would have eaten completely healthy, but I ate horribly. And then on the other spectrum, let's take someone like Lizzo. She is self-proclaimed plus size woman, and she is vegan. She eats super clean. Like I see it on her TikTok all the time. She eats super clean. She's vegan, and she works out like every single day. And people look at her and they're like, "Oh, you're so unhealthy," when she really is not.
She's probably
healthier
than the people calling her out.
Exactly what I was going to say. And so, like I said, like she's proof and I'm proof that it does not matter. Your health and your weight and your size do not correlate at all. Like literally whatsoever. There's no... Like we have this...
It's hard to break that thought.
It is.
But it's true.
It's very difficult. And I think it's a lot of the way in how, like I said, just in society in general, we were brought up thinking these things. It's a hard thing to, challenge. I think that everyone's version of healthy looks different.
Yes.
Obviously, there are things that are more typically bad for you or more typically good for you, like vegetables.
Yeah,
are
like
usually
a
good.
Twinkie versus an apple.
Yeah, there's kind of a general difference. But like I'm such a strong believer that everyone's health, like what their version of healthy eating looks like, is completely different. It's unique to the individual.
Ours is very different.
Yeah. Well, and like even the other day, like
what inspired this episode?
Because you were like, we were talking about this episode, and she was saying something like how your diet's become like so much healthier now, and I was like, yes, on paper it is, because now I'm eating more vegetables than I used to, and like I eat salad for dinner every day, which I never thought would happen. Like even like 2 years ago, I would have sworn up and down I would...
Even 6 months ago.
I would have sworn up and down I would never eat salad, and here we are. So, I eat salad, like, pretty much every day for dinner, unless it's one of my, like, treats. Like I said before, I struggled with disordered eating as a child, really. I mean, it probably started around the time I was probably 12. Also, side note, don't give a child Fiber One brownies who has a sugar addiction and doesn't realize what fiber does to your body. I had a day, I must have been 14, and I probably ate 12 of them. Worst day of my entire life. How long were you in the bathroom? Not long, actually.
Because everything just went...
The stomach ache was awful. Like, it was one of those things where, like, I was really gassy, but I could literally feel, like, my intestines, like, rumble. It was the worst day of my entire life.
That's funny.
So don't do that. Anywho.
That is not the point.
And so I think through the last diet, even though it wasn't as traditionally healthy, I think it really helped me to develop a good relationship with food.
Oh, that's good.
And that's something that I honestly think that if I had gone straight from where I was eating only pizza and Tex-Mex to where I am now, I don't think I would have been able to sustain it.
Yeah,
I think I would have done it for maybe a week or two and then gone back. And so I think having that, like...
What's that called? Like yo-yo dieting or whatever?
Yeah. And that's... When I kind of did this, I was very clear. Like, I really was trying to make a lifestyle change and not just I call it a diet, because that's the problem. It's both like a diet as in like a trendy diet, but it's also like your diet.
Right.
Like, it's the same word, but it's two different meanings. And so I say diet, but it really is just like my general nutrition. And so, yeah, like yo-yo dieting. I had tried every diet under the sun by the time I was probably 19. And then like just completely changing, not doing a fad diet and just changing my nutrition to fit my lifestyle, if it would work for my body, what worked for Zane and I together. Because we had moved in together right before that, about 6 or 7 months before I made the change. We were getting married soon. Like, everything was changing, and so I really made a big switch to fit what my lifestyle was like at the time. Now it's definitely a much healthier diet because I eat salads, but like, you know,
but again, like, her version of healthy and my version of healthy are very different.
Our diets differ so much too, you know, and so it's so different from person to person. So that's why I think everyone's version of healthy looks different. And I think that also means not restricting yourself from the bad foods. Like, I truly believe like everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Like we said, like on vacation is not the time to be on a diet. Like, you can have a vacation where you eat whatever the fuck you want.
Between mindful eating and
absolutely
like binging. But anyway.
Anywho. So yeah, I think I've really come in a long way since being a child. To here with my relationship with my body. I've also realized that everyone's body, do what the f*** you want with it. Like, if you...
Be safe.
Yeah, I more meant like...
But yeah.
In terms of how much space you take up in the world, do whatever the f*** you want. Like, if you want to get shredded and become like a bodybuilder, f***ing do it. If you want to, like, be a plus-size queen and you feel confident in that, f***ing do it. Do what makes you happy. Like, for me, I realized that personally, I like to be a little bit leaner with a little bit more muscle. That's just 100% my personal preference. And I've changed my diet and my lifestyle to affect that.
As long as you're healthy about your choices that you're doing and it's not harmful to you in either end.
Yeah. And it's a spectrum. It's not a... Yeah. And it's like, I realized that, like, my happiness isn't dependent on my weight. But I definitely have noticed for myself personally, it is affected by it, you know? And so I feel more confident when I'm a certain size. It's a terrible way to say it. Or I feel more confident when I'm making good choices with my diet and my exercise. I feel like I've noticed...
And whatever happens as the result from that is the result of that.
Yeah,
but when you are actively putting the things your body needs and like, if you sit and listen, like, your body will tell you what it wants. Oh yeah. Every night, this is something that's bad, but like every night for the maybe the past like 2 weeks, after I eat dinner, I'm like, oh man, I really want an apple. I want an apple so bad. And I get a cookie or I get ice cream and I don't listen to my body. And I've still had this craving for weeks of like, Jordan, eat an apple, eat an apple. Have not still to this day, have not had an apple, but my body's telling me every day and I just forget it. Yeah. And I'm not listening to it. And that's something like, if you listen hard enough, your body will tell you what it wants.
And like on the other end too, like yesterday I was having a really bad day and my body did not want to have anything healthy, remotely healthy. And so I was like, I'm gonna eat what I want. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a day where I can just eat and not really have to think about it, not think about what, I mean, I really don't, because I'm gotten used to the diet now. I don't really think about it anymore, but even then, it's easier to think about the things, like eating the things that you can't have
Right.
than the things that you can. And so I was like, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want today, and I feel great. Like, with all my goals that I have set in place for me, I've kind of, because I used to really struggle with binge eating, which I don't really anymore. Since this new diet, I really haven't had a problem with it as I did before. I don't crave like cheating as much, or like having these like treats as much, because I feel like
you're having a full nutritional diet.
Well, and now I feel like it's less like before, when it was like a cheat or a treat. It's like I can't have it till then. I've learned I don't feel as good eating a pizza as I do, like,
especially as you get older.
Yeah, like I can't.
Your body's just like
I can't eat pizza anymore. It makes me so sick, and like that's why I stopped eating bread, because it made me feel bad. But then it's also to the point where, because I've gotten to that really healthy relationship with my food, I can have a day where I do eat a pizza or I do eat bread, and it's not like I'm cheating. It's not a treat. It's just something I'm allowing myself to do. I'm listening to my body. And then for myself, my thing is, it's not what I do that day, it's what I do the day after. And so like yesterday I ate really bad, or off of my normal diet. And so today I'm being really good about being back on it, you know? And so that's kind of been my thing that's really kept me accountable with it all.
And now you have a better relationship with your body now?
I would say so. There are still days that I struggle.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, there's days that everyone struggles. I think for me, my biggest my biggest struggle is I personally am taking up the most space I ever have in my life. And so that's not, it's getting used to it, but then also like in the back of my mind, I'm still comparing myself to the body I had when I was 17.
Yeah.
You know? And so
you need to so it's learning to love the new current you.
Yeah, it's really learning to love the new current me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, I'm here because of having that diet from before that wasn't necessarily the healthiest, and really wasn't the healthiest for me. It was just what I always knew, so I kept doing it. And so I'm really trying to get to the point for me, and my goals is to really kind of reverse that and have a diet that makes me feel good, both internally and externally, you know? And so, like I said, I still struggle with it to a degree, but overall, I do feel a lot, especially since developing a much better relationship with food, I feel a lot better about myself.
What have you learned along, just as like a quick wrap up, I guess, like what have you learned along the journey of all of this? Like what have been your key takeaways?
It's really, building a healthy relationship with food is a very freeing experience. It's so nice to not have to think about it anymore, and to not have to worry
of what you feel like you need to eat
and like,
or not eat.
Like I said with my last diet too, is like I didn't have to think about it. I just knew what I could have and what I wanted. I wasn't something where I had to really go into such detail about like, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. What am I going to eat? You know, I just had my go-to things that fit within my diet that make me feel good, and that's what I ate. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Through that, I really helped me to stop doing it because of what other people thought. For the longest time, it's always a little bit about how you feel internally. It is about yourself and your confidence in your feeling. But there was a big part of me that when I was having a day where I wasn't feeling as confident, typically if someone's having a day where they don't feel great about their body, they usually hide it, wear bigger, baggier clothing so you can't see it. I did the opposite. I wore tighter clothing and less clothing, I say, but it's like a crop top. It's not that much less clothing. I showed off more of my body because I didn't want people to look at me and think, oh, she's so big. Obviously that's so, now where I am, I wouldn't say that. But like at the time, that's what I thought, you know? Once again, how society makes us puts that out there, makes us think that these things that really don't even matter, you know? And so I didn't want people to think bad of me or think that I looked bad. In my mind was like proving to people like, hey, I look like this, not like what you think I look like. And so through changing my diet, I really, and through everything with my health and my fitness and just everything I've done, even like down to like my hair and my skincare and just I forgot to take my vitamins today.
That's okay. You can do it anytime.
Yeah, I can do it at home. I was going to say taking my vitamins.
Yeah.
Through all that, it really helped me to stop doing it for other people.
Yeah.
And realize, like I said before, do whatever the you want with your own body.
Just make sure it's healthy.
Just make sure it's healthy. And
for
so, like
you.
I said, yeah. And so, like, I'm doing what's best for me and what makes me the happiest, what makes me feel the most confident. I love myself no matter what. My self-worth isn't in how I look. Like, for me personally, I want to lose a little bit of weight, or I want to get leaner. I want to just be the healthiest version of myself, you know? And for me, that's part of it. And I'm not going to do it for anybody else or for what other people think that I should look like. I'm doing it for myself. And I think that through this, that's really been my biggest kind of obstacle I've overcome, is that now I'm truly 100% doing it for myself. I do still think I struggle with when I have confidence issues and I'm not feeling the best that day. It does play into other people's opinions too. And that's something I'm still working on. And I'm working on every single day. And I probably will be for a long time. It's really hard to kind of reverse the things that you've had so ingrained into your mind for 22 years, you know? I came out of the womb worrying about what other people thought of me. So here we are. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway for me, is just learning how to stop caring about what other people think in that regard.
Yeah,
like I said, I struggle with it in other places.
That's okay.
But we're working on it. We're on a journey. That's the point. Like, that is the point of Verb. And I say it every single week, and I'll say it again. We're all on a journey. No one's perfect. We're all just trying to become the best versions of ourselves, and it's something that I'm still working on.
And
that's okay.
What are you going to do this week to better yourself? Our question of the week. Let us know what y'all are going to do. And Haley, what are you going to do? I have to sneeze is what I'm going to do. But anyway, what are you going to do?
I think for me, something that I've kind of been neglecting is my exercise, because mostly I don't have time ever. But like, if I really wanted to, I could make time. Like, I can find time if it's that important to me, I could find time. And so I've been saying it's because I don't have time, when it's really just,
it's not on your priority list as high as I
feel like it should be.
Yeah.
So I think that's my thing. Just kind of getting back into it. Stopping making excuses for things that I care a lot about. And I think that's the thing I'm gonna do this week. Stop making excuses for things that I care a lot about.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of that. I think I'm also going to make my physical health more of a top priority. I'm kind of in the same boat as her, where I grew up being I was always very athletic. I still have a very athletic looking body, and my body craves the athleticness of
action.
of what I used to do. And I'm kind of ignoring that because I am so busy. And then so when I do have a free moment, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just want to rest. But like, even last night, like, I was exhausted. I got very little sleep the night before, but my body was like, Jordan, work out. So I was about to, but then I was afraid I was going to pass out if I started working out because I was just so tired. But I was like, oh, I'm going to wake up early this morning and do it. And then I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think prioritizing being more active in physical health, because that makes my body feel better and my mind feel better.
Yeah.
So that's my goal for the week as well.
Good.
Nice.
So we'll try to keep each other accountable this week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text you every morning. Did you work out?
No.
I'll ask you did you work out yesterday?
Yeah.
Instead of the day of. So we'll keep
Yeah.
each other accountable this time.
All right.
That's what we do.
Yeah. And if we'd love to hear your opinions on this. And thoughts and differences, and maybe teach us something that we didn't think about or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So love you guys.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye. Make sure to check us out on social media at GotVerb or at our website, verbofficial.com. And send us your questions at askivhpod@gmail.com.
We post new podcast episodes every Monday, so subscribe to Insert Verb here so you can insert verb into your daily routine.